Well, I got up at 5 a.m. this morning to do an airport run. Who doesn't love doing that on their Fridays? But it's now 7:30 a.m. and I opened the news, and what did I see? Good Lord! Don Lemon has been arrested by federal agents and is facing 10 years in prison. Just think about starting your Friday off like that. Don Lemon has been arrested by the FBI and is facing 10 years in prison. Every single like on this video is one time in which Don cannot drop the soap. That Don will not be allowed to drop the soap because he would enjoy it too much. What a wonderful Friday to start. Now, here are all the details. By the way, thank you all for being so supportive this week. Everything's been going incredibly. I'm thankful for all of you. Don Lemon arrested by the Trump administration over his role in the Minnesota church protests, taken into custody while covering the Grammys, and has been charged with conspiracy to deprive rights. What is conspiracy to deprive rights? Well, conspiracy to deprive rights refers to a federal criminal offense under 18 U.S.C. 241, which makes it illegal for two or more persons to conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate someone in the free expression of any right secured by the U.S. Constitution or federal laws. This statute applies to both private individuals and public officials and does not require the conspirators to act under the color of law, distinguishing it from 18 U.S.C. 242. Key elements include an agreement between two or more people. That was the group that he stormed the church. The intent to interfere with federally protected right, such as voting, equal protection, interstate travel, or due process, or in this case, the right to practice freedom of religion. No overt act is required to complete the crime, only the agreement and intent. Penalties under Statute 241 include up to 10 years in prison, fines, or both. Life imprisonment if something terrible happens, which it didn't. Now, this is originally enacted as part of the Enforcement Act in 1870 to combat the KKK. Just let that sink in for a minute. Don Lemon faces a decade in prison. A black gay man, faces a decade in prison thanks to a law for the KKK. I mean, I know this video is going to be up early. It's going to be up at 8 a.m. before any of my normal viewers are online. But I can't imagine better news for everyone. Don Lemon arrested by federal agents in LA in the middle of covering the Grammys over Minnesota churches. It was like the extra humiliation. All right. To all the nothing ever happens people, I mean, look, I understand that people go, well, they're probably just going to let him off, whatever. Well, this is a federal charge. This is not a charge that is easier to just have some activist judge throw out. Don Lemon was arrested this morning after joining pro-immigration protesters who stormed a Minnesota church, the Daily Mail can now exclusively reveal. The former CNN anchor, 59, has been taken into federal custody over the incident that was filmed for his show at the city's church in St. Paul on January 18th. He has been charged with conspiracy to deprive rights with a violation of the FACE Act, interfering by force of someone's First Amendment rights. Before Don Lemon was arrested Thursday night, he attended the Grammys Recording Academy Honors Awards show in LA, where he was pictured alongside rapper Busta Rhymes. Well, something's gonna be busted. It's gonna be them cheeks. The incident that led to Lemon's arrest unfolded earlier this month as he filmed protesters opposed immigration and customs enforcement targeting a church because one of its pastors, David Eastwood, also leads the local ICE field office. Well, I don't care if you don't like ICE. ICE is allowed to go to church. This is a constitutionally protected right. They can go to church. They can do the same things you and I can. Protesters screamed, harassed worshipers during the incident, which sparked nationwide fury. In a statement from international newsreader Don Lemon's attorney, Abe Lowell, following his arrest, he defended the storming of the church in Minnesota as, quote, constitutionally protected. But here's the thing. One constitutionally protected right does not override another. Meaning, he says, well, I have freedom of speech, okay, but you don't have the freedom to impede other people's freedom of religion, right? That's not how this works. International newsreader Don Lemon. Don has been a journalist for 30 years and has been continually, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done, the statement read. Has he always stormed churches? Now, if he had gone into a Kmart, right? If he had gone into a Kmart, or if he had gone, you know, I don't know, into a restaurant or into, which you might have trespassing charges there, but we're not talking about violations of the FACE Act. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists. Wrong. It does not exist to protect journalists whose role is to shine a light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. This is no more important there is no more important time for people like Don Lemon to be doing this work. You mean harassing people at church? Oops. Oops. In his footage from storming the church, Don Lemon was seen arguing with a church pastor who called his antics shameless. Lemon insisted that his behavior was covered by the First Amendment, and he fumed to the pastor. There is a Constitution and a First Amendment and freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest. Yeah, but again, that does not supersede their freedom to assemble and practice religion. You know, that's so. I find that a lot of people will like scream, "I have freedom of speech. I have freedom of this, freedom of that." Blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, you do, but they also have the freedom to celebrate their religion. In Lemon's attorney statement on Friday, he hit out at federal investigators for charging him instead of investigating the federal agents who protected themselves against getting run over and getting attacked. The Trump Justice Department is devoting its time and attention and resources to arrest. That is a real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. The unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many cries facing this administration will not stand. Ooh, big words. Now, if Pam Blondie actually follows through on this, it will be probably the first time that... Now, I do think she handled, like, the Tesla lunatics. You know, the Tesla, she handled them okay. But this is a different thing. This is about sending a message. You can't be storming into people's churches just because you don't like where one of the people in that church works. That's not how these constitutionally protected rights work. And Don Lemon's First Amendment right does not supersede their rights. He concluded his statement by declaring Lemon will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. Federal agents had previously expressed desire to charge Lemon under the FACE Act, which bans people's or groups interfering in religious services. Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Harmy Dillon also floated charging Lemon under the KKK Act, which makes it illegal to threaten, hurt, or intimidate people to prevent them from exercising their civil rights. A federal judge in Minneapolis previously blocked attempts to bring those charges against Lemon. The broadcaster lives in New York with his not husband, Tim Malone, who he married in 2024. They're not married. Lemon was fired from CNN back in April 2023 after his 17-year stint of dragging down the network. He sparked fury 2 months before his dismissal by claiming women in their 40s were past their prime while discussing the prospects of the Republican presidential hopeful Nikki Haley. Since then, Lemon has set up a pathetic YouTube channel and brands himself as an independent journalist. It comes as it was revealed that the anti-ICE mob that Lemon joined chose to target that church because one of its pastors, David Easterwood, also serves as the acting director of St. Paul ICE field office. Easterwood, a pastor in the city's church in St. Paul, appeared to be alongside Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem back in October, where he spoke about being proud of leading the immigration crackdown in the town. At the protest, while speaking with Lemon, protester Nekima Levy Armstrong, or Nekima, who was later arrested also for her role, singled Easterwood out as the reason they chose to overwhelm the church service. This will not stand. They cannot pretend to be in the house of God while harboring someone who is commanding ICE agents to protect our communities, Armstrong told Lemon. She also was arrested. This is a extraordinarily important arrest. We cannot have these lawless leftists be running completely unchecked. You just can't. It's not how this works. And look, you may say Don Lemon is ceremonial here. Sure. Fine by me. What about all the J6ers? Don Lemon should spend every year of that 10 years in prison and should be in solitary confinement the entire time, because that's how they treated the J6ers. Right? That's how they treated the J6ers. I absolutely am so happy to bring this to you this early morning on Friday. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.